Your spiritual practice is an elevation and transformation, not a distraction. What am I talking about? Today's video, or if you're listening through the Unleashed Alchemy podcast, in today's episode, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be using an example from a movie to illustrate what I'm talking about. So let's just jump right into it. So when I'm talking about how your spiritual practice is for your elevation, it is not for your distraction. Here's what I mean. There's a movie that I saw. It is called Rituals. All right. It was from 1997. I had never heard of this movie at all. And I'm so glad I watched it. Actually, I'm calling it a movie, but it's a short film, barely 30 minutes long. But in this 30-minute max short film, there are so many lessons about spirituality, your spiritual practice, and how to integrate that into your physical life. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about the movie. If you plan on watching it, I'm just going to tell you right now, there may be some spoilers. Okay. So listen or watch this at your own risk. Now, like I said, this video, this movie, this short film was barely 30 minutes, all right? But plenty of self lessons, okay? So, it's a movie about this woman that is clearly exhausted. When you see her on the screen, you can see that she is tired. When she starts to talk, you can see that she is feeling unloved, that she is feeling unhappy, that she is feeling unappreciated. All right. She's unhappy with herself. She's unhappy with her life. She is unhappy with her marriage. All right. Now, in her marriage, she is not feeling loved. She feels like her husband is not paying attention to her. Okay. And she's feeling like actually she's being taken advantage of. All right. So again, it shows in how she views herself, because you can see that the way that she wears her hair, you can see that the clothes that she wears, that she's really feeling like she doesn't give a damn anymore. All right. So you also notice that this woman has placed for all the reasons that she's unhappy, she has placed all of her unhappiness on everything that is external. Okay. She's placed the blame for her unhappiness on everything that is outside of her. All right. So just follow me here. You see where I'm going. Okay. So this woman, she feels so broken and so hopeless that she's trying to talk to her so-called friend, and she can't even get all the words out because she's feeling so broken. She starts to cry, and the friend is like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's happening? What's wrong with you? How can I help? What can I do? And so after the woman, explains her plight, she explains to her so-called friend what's happening in her life and the way that she's feeling. The friend, this so-called friend, asks her, well, do you want to stay married? Do you want to keep your man? And so this woman says, well, yes, I want to keep my marriage. I want to stay married. I want to keep my man because I love him. All right. So the friend then says, well, since that's the case, since you want to keep your marriage, since you want to keep your man, here's what you need to do. Well, in that list of what you need to do, it includes the woman having to go and get special types of herbs, special types of spices, and specific candles of specific colors. And so this so-called friend is giving this woman all of these ingredients basically, and is telling her, you get these ingredients, This is what you do with these ingredients. You get these specific color candles. This is how long you burn these candles. This is what you have to do to keep your man and to keep your marriage. So the friend has told her how to mix the herbs, and along with all of this, the friend even says to her, hey, if you want to add an extra kick, mix your blood into your husband's food. Okay. So the friend is, you can tell this, well, not the friend, but the woman is, she's unsure because she's never heard of this before. It's sounding strange to her. And so she ponders. She ponders the instructions. She ponders the ingredients. She's pondering what this so-called friend, with these instructions that her so-called friend has given her. Okay. So the woman ponders, and she ponders her way onto the store to get all these herbs and all these candles. Okay. She mixes the herbs right. She lights the specific color candles like her so-called friend has told her. She does everything except for the blood part. She keeps that out. Okay, fine. All right. So as the woman, we see the woman, setting up her candles. She's got her candles lit. She's got her herbs together. She mixes her herbs. Well, as she starts to do that, you start to see that this woman is starting to take better care of herself. She starts to become more confident in who she is. She starts to walk different because she's sure of herself. She changes her hair. She starts to put on makeup. She changes her wardrobe. She starts to look at her clothes and think, do I even like the way that I dress? And instead, you see the woman, instead of putting all her focus on the external, she has now put all her energy onto herself, onto her internal. She starts to pay more attention to her own spirit and how her spirit is expressing itself, on how her soul is expressing itself. So, with that synopsis of the movie, here's what you need to know when it comes to your spirituality. Because spirituality is about you focusing on yourself. This podcast, this YouTube channel is not called Unleashed Alchemy for no reason or just because it sounds cute. There's a reason why I chose that name. So, what happens? This is what we can learn from this movie called Rituals. What happens when you put the focus on yourself? What happens when you put the focus on the internal? What happens when you put the focus on your own spirit and your own soul and you start paying attention to what you want and what you deserve? Here's what happens. You start to be more in tune with what you desire. You start to be more in tune with what you desire. You start to be more in tune. You start to reconnect with the truth that you get to have what you desire. That your life does not have to come with suffering. That you get to say, I don't like this situation. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what I'm feeling. So let me go internal to see exactly how I want to feel and exactly how I want to experience life. So you're not putting the blame on the external. You're not putting the blame on anyone or anything in your external. You are going within. Also, what happens when you start to focus on the internal? You start to activate and use the energy of your desire to create the life that you desire. It's very important that you understand that. So I'm going to say that again. You start to use the energy of your desire, the energy, the frequency of your desire to create the life that you desire. Okay? Now, when you start to have these realizations, all right, these realizations, they start to take effect in your life. And it changes first, it changes your internal, yes. And then what happens? You start to express yourself on the external. You begin to express yourself in a bigger, much more elevated and transformative way to other people into the world. Because you have now reconnected with yourself. You have now reconnected with your alchemy. You have now reconnected with your sovereign self. You have now reconnected with your own alchemy. All right. So now this fiery expression that you have, it starts to get noticed. It starts to get noticed. You start to attract what you desire. All right. Your focus is no longer about who's not doing something for you. Your focus is not even about on what you feel isn't going your way. Your focus is not on the external or who's not treating you right, who should have done this, who should have said this to you. No. Or who is not appreciating you. All of those are external aspects. So when you focus on your external, your spirit, guess what? The world conforms to that expression. The world conforms to your soul's expression. So, if we're going to talk about relationships as it relates to this movie, let's just keep going with this example. So, if you do have someone in your life who does not appreciate you, they will exit, therefore making room for someone who will appreciate you. Or that same person will begin to see the error of their ways. They will get their shit together and they will give you all the appreciation that you deserve. Okay? So, your spiritual practice is for elevation, not to be used as a distraction. This is the second lesson that you can take from the short film Rituals. And again, this is perfectly illustrated in that film. So listen, yes, the woman lit the candles. Yes, she used those herbs and those ingredients to create a love bath. But yet, she still had to function in the world, right? She couldn't stare at her candles all day. She certainly couldn't sit in her bath, in her love bath all day. She chose to take action by working on herself, by putting more attention into how she felt about herself. Because she could have lit those candles, she could have put all the ingredients together, did everything right that her so-called friend told her. And yet, she still could have just chosen to dress the same way. She still could have just chosen to be in the same, woe is me mind frame. But she chose to take action by improving herself. She chose to take action by putting on the makeup, by styling her hair different, by getting a new wardrobe, she chose to consider her own desires, all right? She chose to pay more attention to her appearance. And you can see very quickly when her focus became how she felt, her internal, it then became expressed through how she started to dress and in her appearance. So, of course, she was feeling better about herself. So, what am I illustrating here? What am I telling you here? Candles, herbs, all the ritual tools, all the magic tools, they have their place, including sigils and symbols. They have a place. The candles, if we still talking about this movie, the candles and the herbs became symbols of her self-love. But it started with her. It started with her venerating her own spirit. And when you start to pay attention to what you desire, when you start to pay attention to how you feel and what you desire to experience in the world, that is a part of you venerating your own spirit. And if you have ever been attached to religion, then you know religion does not teach you that. Religion tells you to look to some external God up there to tell you what you want. And then to tell you that when you pray, then you say, oh, if it be God's will. You are programmed to put your attention and your focus on the external. And we can see that not just in religion, but we see that in every single system of society. All right. And I've talked about that on other episodes and in other videos. All right. So let's come back to this episode. So the candles and the herbs, they have their place. Magic tool, any magic tool that you can even think of has its place, right? So those for her became symbols of her self-love. They became symbols of what she wanted. So when she looked at the candles, when she looked at the herbs, when she had her love bath, those tools just became reminders for her to focus on her own spirit and on her desire. Not to even change anything in the external, not to even change the people in her external environment, but the herbs and the candles became reminders to her that her magic is internal, and she accessed it. And when she did that, when she unleashed her own alchemy, her external conformed to what she desired. So, you have to remember that your spiritual practice doesn't replace choices and actions. Your spiritual practice needs to elevate your choices and actions. Also, one last thing that I want to say, and I may make a separate video or an episode for this. Your spiritual practice will also let you know if a ritual or a spell is even necessary. Okay, so that is today's episode. I want to hear your comments. And I also let me know if you decide to go and watch that short film, Rituals. Like I said, it's barely 30 minutes, but it's powerful. Okay. And so I also want to remind you that if you are desiring one-on-one support from me to access your sovereign being, okay, especially if you have been out of religion, if you have disassociated from religion, it's been some time, or maybe you're just coming out of it and you're wanting to know, what do I do next? In your work that you do with me, we focus on the internal because you have to you have to reconnect with the power of your sovereign self. You have to get used to being in tune with your body again. You have to get used to the fact that you are powerful in your own right, that the way to navigate your life is as you have navigated it to this point, you have been operating from programming. But that's fine. That's not a judgment, and it's not to get you to judge yourself. but it's to get you to recognize those programming blind spots so that now you can allow your sovereign self to be expressed. It is not something that you have to look for or get. You already have it because it is internal. You were born with it. That is your right. So, for more one-on-one support with me, I want you to go to unleashedalchemy.com. You can also see where I have ebooks, where I have courses that will also support you on your spiritual odyssey. All right. And that will give you tips on how to integrate your practice into your everyday life. All right. Until next time, be sovereign.